All right, let's talk about what's in front of me right here. This is a Blue Yeti microphone. It is via USB. I'll see if I can get it in zoom. You can kind of see it right here. It has multiple polar patterns, and just for reference, everything you're hearing is coming out of this microphone. The only additional things that's going on is gain staging, which we'll talk a little bit about. Along with there is some processing that's within the Logitech Blue Yeti software, which there's the compression and gating and things going on, which you can adjust all that to your liking. So let's talk about this thing. We have the little not pop filter, but the top little item here. This helps with any peas, explosives, things like that. Helps tremendously with that to help to block that out. I have mine on a arm, which is a little hard to see. I don't know if we can get this into the picture. Nah, it's not gonna let me get into the picture too well. Let's see if I adjust things slightly so you can see the arm. If we kick it out a little bit, you can kind of see it, but not really. Okay, no big deal. But so, and let's just shift this slightly. So you can maybe see I'm going to adjust my keyboard. So you can kind of see this. So it's sitting on a mic stand arm, and this is all, I'm going to do it this way. That's all connected onto here, comes over to there. So that's all that's going on with that. Let's set this back down. Let's talk a little bit about what these things are going on back here. We have our gain. So this is very important when it comes to like sound in general. It's coming from someone that's actually used to be an audio engineer in Nashville doing some work there. Gain staging is what it's called. So what we're looking at is we have our gain. So if I turn this down, wrong way. If I turn this down, I'm gonna get quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter to the point where you barely can probably hear me. I'll still come through, but not terribly loud. Now, as we continue, we'll come up. You're gonna hear me louder and louder and louder and louder. And you don't want to clip. So if I go all the way this way, I'm probably gonna come through really loud, getting to the borderline of clipping, it's gonna sound probably just really bad. So you want to balance your gain here. And then if you have any sound drivers, sound settings, whether you're in Mac is what's called system settings, and then sound input, and then you can adjust the input volume. So I usually have it somewhere in the middle on all stages, and then I will adjust this as needed, depending on what it sounds like. And then the other thing with the Logitech software that comes with this, you can adjust compressors, gates, EQ. So like there's a lot of stuff you can actually adjust within that software field to help kind of fine tune this. And then, so there's also on the backside a mute button. So if I push this mute button, now if I push it again, you're going to hear me. I said you're not going to hear me right now. And then let's continue down. Since we went buttons on both sides, I'll shift this slightly so you can kind of see it. I have to be careful not to disconnect everything. But if we do this, you can see there's on the side, that was the mute button I was referring to. And you can see that red is recording. You're also going to notice my volume or my sound isn't as good. Why is that? Let's talk about that for a second. So on this side, now you're going to hear me better. There's different polar patterns. Right now we're sitting in a cardioid polar pattern. So you're going to hear more sound from this side. So my voice is coming on here. A lot of people will talk like at the top of this, and you can see like you can hear me, but it's not as good. Versus over here, it's going to sound better and crisper and more put together. If we change these polar patterns, you're going to get different sounds. If you're just using a microphone like I do, like this, you're better off just staying with cardioid, but there are options. So for example, you have a figure 8 polar pattern that's off to the side. So you can get sound from both sides, kind of like a cardioid on both sides. You got a like 360, which is a circle, so you'll get sound all the way around everything, which can be good. But if you're trying to isolate your voice, you don't want sound coming from back here. You don't want it from over here. You don't want it for the fan that's above me, right? You don't want it from the air conditioner if you can avoid it. So you want it more put right in front of you, so if it's not grabbing the rest of it. So that's where the polaroid patterns come into effect, and cardioid would be the one I would suggest using for this one. And not the last thing, but one of the things with this one, we might adjust it slightly. I mentioned already, it is USB, and at the bottom of this USB, there's actually a plug-in to plug in a pair of headphones if you want to, so if you can kind of monitor your own voice if you want to. It sounds a little weird in the beginning to get used to that. There's also a volume control on the side to kind of adjust how much of that's going on, so you can kind of get a feel for how your voice comes in versus everything else. I typically don't use that too much. I will just do it via gain staging here and then on my system and do it there. That's kind of my preference as far as that goes. But the last thing I will leave you with, this typically does come with like a stand, so you could just sit it on your desk. And if you didn't want to have the arm, kind of like a boom arm desk setup that I have right here, but I like this because I can just move this and now we're out of the way. Obviously, you can't hear me very well because it's a ways away. So you got, but even if I change it to this way, you're probably going to hear me a little bit better because that card rate pattern is now catching more of that versus if I go further away. And if I come back in and drag it in, now I'm going to sound a lot better. So this is the Blue Yeti USB microphone. It's my go-to microphone for when I'm on Zoom calls, if I'm doing any type of coaching calls. If I could, I would use this for a lot of these review videos, but I used the lav mic, which I've referenced in other videos, for that just on the go. This is more if I'm going to be stationary. Sometimes I've used this even to record like acoustic guitar, things like that. I don't do it a ton, but it's definitely an option as well. So hopefully that's helpful. Yeah, that's all I got for you.